it is exciting getting ready for the big 4th of July parade here in beautiful Fredericksburg, Texas. This has become burning with the rebound.
Welcome to the Fredericksburg Chamber of Commerce.
Please on time here, 3,500. So they go to your dad.
We hear that promise again in John's Gospel.
We love living in the country.
When I think about
Husband.
Along the fairways at Lady Bird have a way of slowing down.
Hey there, well, welcome, Billy fans. This is
on September 25th, 1925.
John
when she sank
Crawford Fritch.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Eclipse Town Hall meeting. Anybody here for a high school graduation? Exits are right in the back on either side of the center aisle, so thank you, FISD, for letting us use this auditorium. Kerrville had recently had a town hall meeting regarding the eclipse, and I think they had 150 people. It looks like we have just about that many in the room, so thank you for being here. Thank you for being interested in this meeting. So just right off the bat here, this is the Eclipse Town Hall meeting. We're going to provide you with a lot of information tonight regarding the eclipse coming up April next year. We have an annular eclipse coming up later this year. We'll talk about that as well. But in terms of questions, just housekeeping, we have a mic just right up here. We're going to take questions. Once we give a presentation, we want to hear from you. We want to be able to answer your questions. If we don't have an answer to your question, we'll get back to you right away. I'm sorry, I don't think I introduced myself. Clinton Bailey, City Manager, City of Fredericksburg. Sorry about that. I have a cheat sheet here and I'm not following it. The city, the CVB, and the county is not promoting this event. We've had a number of Coffee with the City Manager events, and I always ask the question, since we've been talking about this, what is everybody that lives here going to do during this eclipse event? And I think people are going to stay home for the most part. So it's not anything that we have to promote. The word is out. There are people from all over the world that will be in this region watching this likely once-in-a-lifetime event, whether it's Fredericksburg, Kerrville, or another location. Again, we'll talk about the exact path and exactly what to expect that day coming up. So this is the first of a couple of town hall meetings that we have planned. As I mentioned, there is an annular eclipse coming up in October. We plan on having another town hall event after that smaller eclipse event, and again, we'll talk about that just a little bit more in a minute. So again, we want to have thoughtful, respectful questions asked of staff here. We have a lot of folks that know a lot about this, have been leading the charge in terms of providing information to the public. We have representation here from the city and the county, CVB, the chamber, and like I said up front, if we don't have the answer to your question right away, we'll get your name and contact information. We'll certainly get that information back to you. So at this point, I would like to hand it over to our Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation, Jennifer Krupa, for the presentation and the rest of the program. Thank you.
Good evening. We're so glad you're here tonight. Just a show of hands, how many have seen a total solar eclipse before? before I get started? Oh, quite a lot of you. So make sure tonight before you leave, you look to your neighbor and explain how incredible this experience is going to be, because that's all we've been hearing. I'm going to preface my presentation by letting you know I am not an Eclipse expert. However, since 2018, when I started with the city of Fredericksburg, this eclipse has been on my radar. I have spoken with Carbondale, Illinois. We have spoken to cities in Oregon who went through this back in 2017. So a lot of the information, we are lucky enough that it happened just 7 years ago, and we're able to draw from that with a lot of the answers that we're going to have tonight. So I'm going to go ahead, and my portion of the presentation is going to be a general overview of the eclipse dates. We'll also talk about the differences in the two eclipses, the timeline, the expectations for Texas, and the path of totality. So this slide here shows the paths of both eclipses. The eclipse that's over here, let me get my pointer so you can see. This eclipse right here is the October 14th, which is a Saturday of this year, annular solar eclipse. So the path starts out, you can see, a little bit north of California and travels down through Texas. And then we have the path of the total solar eclipse, which is the big event we're really here for tonight. This is right here starting down in Mexico, headed through Texas, all the way up to the northeast. And that again is on Monday, April 8th of 2024. I did want to mention that the majority of this presentation tonight is just going to be focused on the total solar eclipse. We have not seen the interest in the annular eclipse for 2023, either through hotel bookings or calls or emails, so the majority of tonight's presentation will be focused on that. So an annular eclipse happens when the moon passes between the sun and the earth, but when it is at or near its farthest point from earth. Because the moon is farther away from Earth, it appears smaller than the sun and does not completely cover the sun. So you can see that graphic right there. You can see what it's going to look like on October 14th of 2023. This will happen at about 11:52 as far as the total annularity and last for about 4 minutes. So as a result, the moon appears as a dark disk on top of a larger bright disk, creating what looks like a ring around the moon. The total solar eclipse. So a total solar eclipse happens when the moon passes between the sun and the earth, completely blocking the face of the sun. People viewing the eclipse from locations where the moon's shadow completely covers the sun, known as the path of totality, will experience a total solar eclipse. The sky will darken as if it were dawn or dusk. Weather permitting, people along the path of totality will see the sun's corona, or outer atmosphere, which is usually obscured by the bright face of the sun. A fun fact, this will be the last total solar eclipse visible from the contiguous United States until 2044. So another 20 years and it will not pass over Texas, so you will have to travel. So when we say this is a once in a lifetime for the people that are living here in Fredericksburg, it really is. So the eclipse anticipation is sky high right now. I'm sure you've seen, especially when we were a year away, all the media coverage. It is just huge because we had the total solar eclipse in 2017 and it's still fresh on everyone's mind. We have to remember as well, about double the amount of people live within the path of totality, which is about 32 million people. This path is going over major cities such as St. Louis, Cincinnati, Detroit, Toronto, Quebec. They're very, close to the path, but the major cities of Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, DC are also within 200 miles of that path of totality. And I have a slide here in a minute that'll show you those drive times. So what they're saying is that we need to be prepared for the single biggest mass travel event in the USA. So Texas, if you could go back one slide, just so you know why Texas is getting the majority of the promotion on this event is that there are people out there who have looked at the cloud cover in our area on April 8th of any given year. Based on those results, they have determined that we have a 30 to 40% cloud cover on that day. The more further northeast you go on that path, that cloud cover gets more dense, which means the possibility for you not to see it is there. So other than Mexico, we are being touted as one of the best places to view the eclipse. This again is another slide just showing the path of the eclipse. And just for your information, I've seen two different totals, but the average or path wide as far as miles is between 115 and 122 miles wide. And you can see where it starts and where it ends up in Maine. So this eclipse will be remarkable for a lot of reasons, but 31 to 32 million people in the US currently live within that path of totality, with millions more in Canada and Mexico. Again, it's within 200 miles of many metropolitan areas. The duration of the eclipse in certain areas is 4 minutes and 28 seconds, which is nearly twice that of the 2017 eclipse. So, we have to remember that we're getting double that amount of time. It's still fresh on everyone's mind. And all that saw it in 2017 are touting it as a peak life experience. This is that slide when I was talking about, this is done by the Great American Eclipse website. If you're looking for a resource with maps and data, they're a great source, as well as NASA and the American Astronomical Society. But this shows you in that yellow band, let me get the pointer, about 31 to 32 million people. But when you look at just another 100 miles or 200 miles, there's another 225 million people living in that area. I did want to let y'all know kind of a fun fact about the city, since I'm in the parks department. When you're looking at this graph, we opened the Lady Bird Johnson RV Park last year on April 8th for reservations, and we have completely sold out with no advertising. We just put it on the website. Justin Calhoun, our emergency management coordinator, actually took the data from those reservations and determined that 50 to 60% of those reservations, the people coming to visit Fredericksburg, are coming from California. On the flip side, we also opened up primitive tent camping this past April 8th, so just a little over a month ago. That is a tent site. You bring your own tent. You can have up to 6 people, no water, no power. We are almost completely sold out. We're about 3/4 of the way. Justin also did an analysis on the addresses from the people that are coming there. The average distance people are coming to stay in a primitive tent camping site is 1,300 miles. So in the US, totality will begin in Texas at 1:27 p.m. Here in Fredericksburg, it starts about 1:32 p.m., so that's when it'll look like twilight outside. They say the animals will act different, but we will get approximately 4 minutes, 23.9 or 24 seconds of totality. I'm not gonna go into safe solar viewing because we have the hospital here to do that, but there's an important part about that totality that you'll wanna listen to because it's the exciting part. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Justin Calhoun, who is our city and county emergency management coordinator, to talk about how the city and the county are preparing.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. So Jennifer talked about the eclipse, and now we'll talk a little bit about how we're preparing here locally. So back in early 2021, we created a task force. Jennifer and I are the co-chairs for this task force. And it's comprised of different agencies all across the county, even some state agencies. And we've been working on planning for this event so that we make sure we take care of our local people and also are prepared for the tourists. We have monthly meetings at this time. Leading up to this year, we've had quarterly meetings, and now we're doing it more often. So to be prepared, we will open the Emergency Operations Center. This is above the jail at the Law Enforcement Center. This is a big room where different representatives from the emergency sector will get together, and we'll just kind of be watching what's going on that full weekend. We'll probably open on that Friday night, and we'll be open through the Monday of the eclipse. Some of the anticipated issues we plan on is a large influx of tourists. We don't really know how many people will come. We can sleep about 30,000 additional people here on any given weekend. but that does not include the RV park. So those will probably be full, and then there's probably going to be people renting out their rooms and other things. So that number is going to be pretty large. We are estimating probably around 100,000 people will come to Gillespie County. We expect severe traffic congestion along 290. Kerrville is hosting a large festival, so that may cause issues on I-10, which then leads people to travel down 290. So we're preparing for that situation. We're working with TxDOT, County Road and Bridge, and also the City Street Department to try to take care of that. We are expecting the depletion of normal resources that are here, food, water, fuel, things like that. So we're encouraging local residents to kind of prepare leading up to that. Don't wait till Friday before the eclipse to go to HEB or to get fuel in your car. Be looking at this beforehand and try to take care of some of those things. We're anticipating medical emergencies. We have those every day as it is, and then we'll have the influx of tourists. We will spread our ambulances out across the county and be prepared for that. We're working with the state to try to get some additional resources, but the state has not committed to helping one specific area yet. They'll do that as we get closer to the event. Cell service and communication problems. Most of you probably are aware if you drive down Main Street on a Saturday, your phone may not work as good as it does on a Monday or Tuesday. We're anticipating these issues, and we've talked to AT&T and Verizon to see what we can do to try to increase that cell coverage during the event. Internet coverage, it's kind of the same thing, same boat. Your phone probably doesn't work as well, or your internet at home doesn't work as well, and those are issues we're looking at and making sure we can try to get those issues fixed. Sanitation, Jennifer has worked on some stuff out at the park, and we've also worked with the county on spreading out portalets and trash cans across the county to make sure these people aren't invading local businesses and using their restrooms. We're hoping to have some spots that we can advertise so that they can get out and use those areas, especially if there's a lot of congestion on 290. They'll have places they can stop and use the restroom. And then weather is a big concern. Jennifer kind of mentioned this. People could come here and stay, but then they could leave the day of the eclipse if we have cloud coverage. They can move in any direction to try to get a better view of it. So that can add to some of our congestion, or people may come here because it's cloudy wherever they were at in other parts of the state. So this is something we're aware of and we're watching. Some of the action items we've done to this point, Fredericksburg and Harper ISD have both agreed to close on that day. With the eclipse happening around 1:30, we were worried about school buses running in the afternoons and kids getting stuck in traffic. So the school districts just went ahead and decided to go ahead and close, which we think is a wise decision. Use of satellite phones. At this point, the city has about 5 or 6 satellite phones and the county has 8. We'll spread those out to key personnel to make sure emergency operations are still going on during the event. This is something that won't go down with the regular cell phone use, so we are prepared in that way. And then the CALs, those are the cell on wheels. That's what I spoke of earlier. We have reached out to Verizon and to AT&T. They deploy those on large-scale events like the Super Bowl and things like that, and that's a corporate-level decision, so we haven't heard back from them on if they will put something like that here during the event. Staging of medical resources, we will, like I said earlier, we'll be moving ambulances out throughout the county, likely staged at the volunteer fire departments throughout the county. We've worked with those volunteer fire departments who are trained in emergency medicine as well, so they'll be able to work in those areas and get to people that are in need of medical services. Increased staffing, we've worked with the Sheriff's Department, the Police Department, Fire and EMS, and the city and county, and the staffing will be up that day. We'll see what resources we get from the state, and we will make our staffing accordingly. And then we'll add portable restrooms, which we spoke about. In the public relations campaign, Jennifer's going to talk about this in just a little bit, Jennifer Page with the hospital, but we are pushing information out to make sure people are taking care of their eye safety. We're going to continue to push out information to the businesses on how they can prepare, and then also we will push out more information to private landowners on how they can protect their property. And then we're going to determine public viewing areas. As Jennifer mentioned, the LBJ Park's a viewing area. If other people decide to do public viewing areas, we will put this on the website as well so that people know where to go once they get here. All right, traffic plans, we kind of spoke about this a little earlier. We are working with TxDOT, the city and the county to make sure that traffic flows freely. We're concerned about emergency vehicles being able to get to where they need to go. So we're working through those issues, and that's one of those things that's a little bit of a moving target, and it'll just depend on how many people come that day and what we're able to do. We continue to reach out to all the key stakeholders. Jennifer's been mailing out letters. We're having events like this. We're just wanting to make sure people are aware of what's going on and are prepared accordingly. And we've talked about the weather and communication. We will continue to communicate throughout this event with events like this. We're upgrading our mass communication system so that the emergency system we have, and we'll be pushing out information on that, on how you can sign up to that. And if there's something major going on during the event, we can push that out to make sure you avoid certain areas. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Page with Methodist Hill Country to talk about eye safety.
Thank you, Justin, and thank you to our guests in the room and joining us online to help be advocates for improving education, not only with eye safety or making plans for our community, but protecting you, yourselves, and your loved ones to make this a memorable and enjoyable experience for you and those who come to our Hill Country community to observe. So as we get started with eye safety, just one plug for you, your loved ones, and your family. As Justin said, preparation is key, not just from eye safety, food, water, gas, but also taking care of your medications, letting your electric company know if you're on oxygen, and being an advocate for your loved ones, your neighbors. We're all residents together. So for us, this is a time where it may be 4 minutes of totality. It could be several days of gridlock systems. So we're here for each other, and thank you to Amanda and the CVB for putting together an educational resource and website. We'll be continuing to share information on there. So as you came in, there was a handout about eye safety and for the sun and the moon. As we look at this, we'll look at it from a twofold perspective. One being the annular eclipse coming in October and the total solar eclipse coming in April of 2024. So one important note, they're similar, but they are different. During the annual eclipse, please don't ever look at the sun without certified glasses that are protected. So the Eclipse glasses, there are several organizations within Fredericksburg and the Hill Country community working to partner together to have those as an available resource. So Eclipse glasses are not regular sunglasses. Even if you have extra dark sunglasses, they are not regular glasses. They need to be and comply with the ISO 12312-2 international standard for viewing. So during the annual eclipse coming, we are working with our emergency departments to better equip them to have supplies on hand in case this does occur. Blindness and severe eye injuries can occur when viewing the sun without the proper protection. So at the bottom of your handout, there are resources of where you can go to learn more. And so as we look at the total solar eclipse happening in April of 2024, as Jennifer mentioned, there is a time frame that is acceptable. So if you turn over to the back side of your handout, when we look at this, there's a partial eclipse, glasses on. Diamond ring, glasses on. The Bailey's bead, glasses on. But during that sweet 4-minute time of totality is when you can take your glasses off in April of 2024. And then once that occurs, even give it a few minutes. Don't push your luck. Set a timer on your phone. We're asking you to please protect yourself, your loved ones, your community members, your friends. Be advocates for their education of making sure that you are watching your time of how long you're viewing that. And then the final stages, glasses back on. This information and more will be on the website if you referenced at the bottom of the other page, eclipseinfredericksburgtx.com. And more information as the workforce, and thank you to Jennifer and Justin for all of your hard work on this. We will continue to put information together as an Eclipse committee. And if you have any questions, please reach out at any time, and one of us will be happy to help. And at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce our next guest, Ms. Penny McBride with the Fredericksburg Chamber.
Jen, thanks so much, and thanks to each of you for attending this evening. And on behalf of our chamber's 850-ish members, I want to applaud the city and county for being very proactive in their planning efforts and creating this opportunity to communicate with our residents. So our goal, or our role, I should say, on the task force as the Fredericksburg Chamber of Commerce is to try to help businesses prepare themselves for the Eclipse events, primarily the April 8th eclipse in 2024. So to do that, we started a couple of years ago. As Jennifer said, we started calling chambers of commerce in similar communities who experienced the 2017 eclipse and said, what did you learn? What would you do differently? What would you do again? And it was amazing to me the amount of information they were willing to share. In fact, Madras, Oregon sent me a Dropbox that was so big it took me about a half hour to download all of the great information that they shared with us. And then it's our job to try to share that with our business members. We're doing that in a variety of ways. So we've started an electronic publication called the Eclipse Business Planning Guide. There have been 3 issues sent out, but this is something that any of you can receive if you so choose. You can go to our website for the Fredericksburg Chamber of Commerce, which is Fredericksburg-Texas.com. That's all spelled out. There's a very obvious place on the homepage that you click for Business Eclipse resources, and so you can subscribe to that newsletter for free, and we'd be happy to have you do that. We want to support all of the business community in addition to our chamber members. We're also doing surveys with our members to try to anticipate what their concerns are and then plan proactively to try to mitigate some of those concerns. We did our first survey just under a year ago, and our second one is currently open right now for responses. But a couple of things that may be of interest to you is from those 2 surveys combined, we expect that about just under 70% of Fredericksburg businesses do plan to be open that day. We do expect business closures primarily for businesses that may not have any dependence on tourism trade. They may choose to close just because of difficulties with traffic and that sort of thing. But right now we expect about 70% of businesses to open. However, about 1/3 of those have indicated that they may modify those hours of operation on that day to accommodate needs. And then less than 1/3 of the businesses that we've talked to thus far are indicating that they're planning some kind of activity, meaning a watch party. But right now we don't expect any of them to try to be building capacity much beyond what their normal capacity to accommodate guests are. So again, like what Jennifer and Justin shared, is that no one is viewing this as a capacity building opportunity. The members that have indicated some key areas of concern that we're working with them through, and other businesses as well. The greatest concern, of course, is the resiliency of technology. So we're working with our members to try to help them understand ways that they can't rely on point-of-sale systems that may require on the internet, or they may have to make different arrangements if they have an internet-based security system. So we're expecting them to do more cash transactions that day, and are advising them on safe security protocols for cash management, since that'll be outside of their normal way of conducting business. They're also concerned about getting employees to and from work. So that's a lot of the hour modifications. We don't expect that much difficulty getting employees perhaps to work that day, but getting them home from work may be a challenge. So I know some of our businesses are polling their employees to see who's the closest in their staffing model to help accommodate that. And of course, we do expect significant traffic gridlock, especially upon completion of the eclipse. They also want to know and understand the community plan, and so again, I applaud this sort of meeting and the live stream coverage from Fbg.Live, because that gives us the opportunity to share that with our members who were unable to be here tonight. We're also having conversations with them because they're concerned about storing and sourcing appropriate inventory. What we learned from other communities is that you should not stock up beyond what you think your normal capacity is on non-perishable items, because there is a chance that customers can't get there to purchase them. So they've advised us to use some restraint in terms of oversourcing, but we do expect to be working with our members, for instance, perhaps for let's say restaurants that are in close proximity, that we would try to bring in additional cold storage and coordinate in a common shared commissary for businesses. And of course, the threat of unfavorable weather. We will be looking soon at standing up a reporting tool for any kind of group that's going to have a viewing area like what they talked about, to make sure that we can kind of have an understanding of where people are going to be and where capacity could build. On June 21st, the Chamber of Commerce will be hosting a leaders breakfast with a focus on the eclipse, but specifically around business planning for the eclipse. Registration for that will open up very shortly, and following the presentation portion, we'll have opportunities for our business people to visit with their peers in like industry groups to exchange best practice and to also kind of brainstorm what hot spots we think may happen and ways that we can come up with collaborative solutions. Those ideas, of course, then will be implemented through our program of work and our partnerships with other task force members. So thank you so much, and be patient with our business members. They're going to have their hands full that day as well, and we look forward to all being good neighbors. I have the pleasure now of introducing to you Amanda Kuhn with the Fredericksburg Convention and Visitor Bureau.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. It is a pleasure to work with this great team to bring some collaborative, inclusive information for our community regarding the eclipse. So what we're going to talk about today is actually the website that the CVB is honored to host. As Jennifer and others have mentioned, we are not promoting this as an opportunity for tourism. We are instead taking the stance that we are managing the visitors that will be here in the best way possible. So we have the pleasure of hosting this beautiful website, Eclipse, and FbgTX.com. Like I said, it's an inclusive place to find information for visitors, residents, along with that great safety information, thank you, Jennifer, and events that may be occurring. Go ahead, Lee. So here, the safety information, the new information Jennifer handed out tonight is already up on the site. We actually get any content updates done within about 24 hours, so you can expect to see this changing rapidly. Go ahead. And visitor information. What we've done is over the last few years working with this great team is to collaborate and answer FAQs based on previous experiences in other destinations, so we can address the questions that visitors are asking without really promoting in any capacity. So you can find that there as well. And this is the important piece that you all will want to hear about. The resident information. Everything we've covered here tonight is included here on the resident information site. So if you can go one more, we're going to scroll down the page. Takes just a second to get going, but you'll see a ton of information. And this is live right now. But you've got your information guide that's been mentioned, the business organization guides, press releases. It really is the one-stop shop, inclusive of all Fredericksburg and Gillespie County information points. School closures, and we're gonna keep scrolling. The thing we're really excited about is sharing those public viewing spots as they become available. And this website update form here at the bottom. If you have something that you would like to add to the website, and this is something we use here on our committee, but if you have something that you'd like to add to the website or a question, you can go to this form, fill in your information, it'll come directly to me so that I can take a look, we can evaluate for inclusion on the website and make sure that we get your questions answered. So with that, that is what we have for you. I'm going to turn it back over to Jennifer for Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you to everyone tonight for being here. If you notice, we have a microphone down here on the front. We would ask that if you have any specific questions that you would just come, line up single file. We may have to either come to the podium or we have a microphone here. We'll have to figure out who could answer that question. Based on what we spoke about, you can ask us directly or just throw any question out there that you have about the eclipse. So if you'd like, go ahead and start lining up and we can begin to take those questions.
Okay, you said that this is going to be happening on Monday, and then most of the people will be leaving that afternoon and that evening. When do you expect the people to be coming in, especially if they're going to be traveling from California, Florida, and how long do you think they'll be staying here for the whole weekend? Or maybe.
Sure, absolutely. So we talked to the other cities. A lot of them had events and different things going on. They anticipated a long weekend because, again, in 2017, the eclipse also happened on a Monday. They said the majority of people did not show up until Sunday, the day before. But you have to remember, a lot of the hotels, our short-term rentals, our RV park, our primitive tent camping are putting required minimums. Now, we can't force people to come in on a certain day or make them leave on a certain day, but we are starting, for example, the RV park and the primitive tent camping, a 4-night minimum, coming in on Friday and leaving on Tuesday, with hopes that people will actually stay till Tuesday and not have a mass exodus at 1:40 p.m. when that's over.
Question observation for you. Back when Hurricane, I believe it was Ike, was coming into the coast area and everything, we got caught in the mass excavation. We got about 20 miles out of Belleville and came to a dead stop for several hours. What was going on was in Belleville, the traffic going north was blocking the intersection totally, was not moving, so the people trying to go west could not cross the roads in Belleville. Okay, eventually the police went out, they took over the intersections, prevented the traffic from blocking, and then we started moving a little bit every now and then. Are you setting up here in Fredericksburg to have police at the intersections to prevent that gridlock from forming here? If you're not, you need to consider and look at doing that, because otherwise you will have traffic backed up for miles and miles of people trying to get through Fredericksburg, and you will generate a mass problem.
Yes, sir. That's something we've definitely talked about, and we've worked with PD and the sheriff and TxDOT, and we plan on addressing those issues and getting that traffic moving.
Yes, I kind of agree with his. I live in the Green Meadows edition, just down. Will there be anyone at our entrance so that we can get out on Texas 60 to get to work or get home from work?
We won't commit to having resources in any specific area at this time. We're just going to kind of analyze the county as a whole and put the resources in the most populated areas.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Cammie Coolidge and I live off Gaiman Lane. So I was just wondering, when y'all get closer, will you have specific routes for diverting traffic off 290? I also have a question about there are no convenience stores or anything open 24 hours here anymore, unless something's changed that I don't know about. But I just feel like Sunday night would maybe be a good time to do that. And I had one more question, I forgot. Oh, when I remember it, maybe I'll get back in line. But anyway, those are a couple of the questions I had.
Yes, ma'am. As for the diverting traffic, that's hard to do because people will be traveling in all directions, and as Jennifer spoke, people are going to want to go home, and they live all over the country. So we're just going to have to deal with those situations as they come up and push PD and the SO out to those areas and take care of those issues. As for the 24-hour convenience stores, we're hoping with these letters we're sending out to the local businesses that they can kind of prepare for something like that. If they think that's something they need to do, then they can take care of that.
So I was lucky enough to be at the 2017 eclipse in Oregon, and I have two observations and questions. One is about traffic, and the other is about a viewing spot. Oregon rolled out the red carpet. They were wonderful, and every little town had cops waving people through the four-way stops, and traffic was moving. You got to Washington, they didn't care. My husband and I waited 3 hours at a left turn for, like a 500-car backup because they couldn't be bothered to have one policeman out there. So identifying bottlenecks in the traffic I think is essential, and it creates a lot of goodwill too. And then the second one is that we reserved a place. We actually spent the night in Washington and then came over the bridge and stayed in Oregon. But there was a little town in the middle of Oregon called Spray, and it was not as big as Fredericksburg, and they had a soccer field, and they rented spots on the soccer field. So we were guaranteed a spot in Spray, Oregon from which to observe the eclipse. We paid for it in advance, And so we knew where to go and where to park and where we could be. And so I would encourage anybody here who has a big field to do the same thing. But one thing I'm wondering, and I have talked to a number of people around here who have, oh my gosh, I have 6 acres, I could rent out for 10K. Is there any place that all these people could go to advertise this or let people know that they would like to open up their properties or fields as viewing spots?
I'm sorry? Yes, so we have a great new app here in our area. The owners of the Stonewall Motor Lodge actually created a website, totalityovertx.com, totalityovertx, not Texas spelled out. They are actually producing all of those types of things where a landowner that wants to sell tickets, they will actually set it all up for you through Eventbrite. They will show you how to do it if that's something that you want to do. We do encourage you, if you are doing that as a landowner, to check with your insurance agency and make sure that you are not violating any of your rules with your clause or your policy before you do that. So at this point, we as the city are not, but the Vind app and Totality Over Texas, that's what they are planning to do for us. There's also a Backroads Reservations that's in the Hill Country. They're doing that more with RV, but they are doing camp spots as well. It's another app if you're looking for those types of resources.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Backroads, yes ma'am.
I would assume that we're going to have folks coming in not only by land, but by air. And I'm just curious if the airport is taking, I know that we don't typically right now, I don't think they charge ramp fees, and I think they're going to do that. I think that's a great idea. But are they going to have increased help? I mean, like air traffic controllers, but there's going to be a lot of planes here. And especially if it's cloudy, there's going to be a lot of planes taking off because they're going to want to get above the clouds to watch it. So I'm just curious if they're airport plans.
Yes, sir. Tony Lombardi from the airport is on this task force as well, and he has a plan that he's submitted to the county commissioners, and I believe it's on the website.
Yes, it has been approved. They are already taking reservations for those airplanes. I believe it's just over 300. There is a tie-down fee, and they are preparing what they call, it's not a no flyover, but there's going to be no access to the runway a certain time, and I apologize, I don't have it right in front of me, but I do know like an hour before totality and then an hour and 15 minutes after or something along that. He has an entire plan. I'm sure he'd be happy to share that with you, but those reservations are open. And I know that he has requested an air control tower also from the FAA. We'll see if he gets one.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm feeling very short. Somebody asked a question right off the bat, and I want to kind of elaborate on that. And it was on travelers coming here and not just expecting them for a day. As we've seen in the past years, people coming to stay in Fredericksburg now are so much more mobile and can be here for a week, you know. And so that being not a concern, but I'm just wanting to know if we're aware, you know, that people will be here longer. And in your emergency ops center, which I think is great, instead of that just being kind of for a weekend, could that be expanded to a longer period of time would be my question on that, knowing that we're going to have people here longer.
Yes, ma'am. We're very flexible on that. As it gets closer, we'll sit down together and figure out, you know, as we see reservations and things like that, if we anticipate the need being there earlier, we can set that up.
Great. Hi. Now, the websites you were will they be on the website? This Texas Backroads?
They will not, but just visit with me afterwards, and I'll pull it up and show you.
Okay. A question I have: will the lighting in Fredericksburg stay the same in the middle of the night? So you won't really be able to see it from a street in Fredericksburg. It's during the day?
The totality happens about 1:32 p.m. So yes, it'll feel like twilight about 1:32 in the afternoon for 4 minutes and 24 seconds.
Okay, so it's afternoons. The ones I've seen were always the middle of the night. So, okay, thank you.
Heaven forbid that we'll need this source. But has anybody checked with the state with the possibility of increasing standby for air flight? I know we're planning to keep the roads open, but if we can't, I would hope that there's some planning or looking at having sufficient life flight resources available?
Yes, sir. We've worked with the state and with STRAC, which helps with our medical resources, and this has been brought to their attention. The airport's also holding some spaces for us for emergency helicopters as well. So they haven't assigned any to us at this point, but they will as the event gets closer.
I have two questions. The first is about waiting for corporate, AT&T, Verizon, in terms of them providing or getting ahead of our cell phone coverage problem. I've seen with hurricanes and such that they do come in, but it's usually after the disaster. So, I mean, I don't know, other than the Super Bowl, what other precedent really there would be to look at that this is likely that it's going to happen. I mean, I don't know if we know if it's likely that we're going to get any help ahead of the problem. My second question is about increasing staffing. I think that was on the slide about probably emergency services. So I did hear mention of volunteer fire departments and the like. Are we going to get extra ambulance vehicles? Are we going to maybe call for a volunteer drive from citizens? Stuff like that for trash pickup, or I guess that's it.
Comment. So just from both of your responses and questions about healthcare and safety out in our communities, we're working from a very strategic approach with our partners in our medical community and greater communities of home care, supportive care, and hospice to strategically place healthcare workers within our rural communities and in our highly populated areas of Gillespie County and our 17 counties that we serve to ensure that we have access to our patients and those that we care for. So from a healthcare perspective, home care, supportive care, hospice, and working with our emergency departments and teams, being able to ensure that access is available. And I'll let Justin speak on the rest of those.
Yeah, and so like we talked about earlier, we will spread those ambulances out across the county, and we'll have those resources. We'll have designated landing zones for helicopters if we need those type of things. So all that's in the works. A lot of those are already in place. We use the volunteer fire departments pretty often for those flights. So that's something that we do basically on a day-to-day basis, but we'll ramp it up for the event.
I do want to mention on the volunteer side, that is something we have not flushed out completely with the task force. A lot of the towns that we spoke to had volunteer ambassadors welcoming people to town, giving people information. So be prepared. We may ask you as we get closer to volunteer in one of those capacities. We just haven't flushed out those details yet. So do keep that on your radar.
So I'm thinking that on that particular weekend and that Monday, the vast majority of people coming to Gillespie County are not going to be interested in coming to Fredericksburg per se. They're looking for a place to stay, but I think a lot of them are going to be trying to get under the path of totality wherever that is, and that's going to be from the southwestern part of the county to the northeastern part, and they're going to be coming, since they won't be able to find a place in Fredericksburg, they're going to be coming from all outside, and on that day, they're going to be rushing in to try to get under that line. How are you guys dealing with the county roads in the county, and how do we see that? I would think the county roads under the path of totality are going to be the worst, but they're going to be everywhere. And are you going to be able to use county roads as decompression, or is it going to be just a giant snake parking lot all over the place? How do y'all see that?
We think there's definitely going to be areas of the county that are very congested, just like you would be in town. That's why we hope to spread those resources out, both law enforcement, fire, and EMS, to those areas. And if we see that happening, we can try to take care of that and move those people off the roadways. We're going to encourage people through public education to not park on the side of the roads. That's not what we want, but we anticipate it happening, and we'll have that law enforcement present out to try to move those people along.
Hi, my question is specifically about law enforcement. Are you guys looking into having any other state agencies like the Department of Public Safety, or bringing in extra resources from departments that are not in the path of totality, so that we're totally prepared for complete chaos should it ensue?
Unfortunately, with the state, there will be other officers here. There's game wardens within the county. There's highway patrol within the county. They have not at this time specifically been requested to come in, but that might be something that happens here in the future. And regarding the decompression rates on the roadways, for everybody that doesn't know it, there's actually 560 miles of county roads in Gillespie County, and there's 267 miles of state highways or state roads within Gillespie County. 1,062 square miles, it's a big county. There's a lot of roadways for people to traverse along and disperse throughout the county, so some of those congested areas. How about the Willow City Loop? That's probably a good example when they're really good bluebonnets. We've all been there, we've all seen it. That's probably going to be what's going to be occurring along some of these roadways, will be that type of activity, and that's what we really look forward to, is something like that, a limited deal that probably won't last for days. You know, it's probably going to be a short period thing, but I haven't been through it, we haven't been through it, so it's going to be an experience for all of us.
Well, I guess that's a follow-up question for you, buddy. If they're out there on the county roads, and then how far do you let them come in the pasture, or how do you keep them from just invading everywhere, and how long will they stay, and what rights do we have to push them back?
Landowners have the right to protect their property. Notice is given by a sign,
right,
verbiage to leave, a fence designed to retain livestock, and that can be something as simple as a single strand electric fence. So posting, there's also purple paint, which most people don't know anything about that. That's a sign of no trespassing. And if you have some that are on those areas, I want you to know that you can call us about it, but with the limited resources that we have, there's probably not going to be somebody showing up right away. So, you know, I just have to say that you need to at least post your property if you don't want anybody on it.
How long do you think these guys are going to stay, or how long after the eclipse will they just hang around, or will they leave right away? Nobody knows, right?
Really don't know.
I will tell you, with Carbondale, Illinois, back in 2017, they did tell us, and those of you that were there or anywhere near, is that there was school the next day and people had to get back to work. So they left right after totality. That's what caused the issues with the traffic backup. So unless they're interested in staying for an event, or they're, you know, and we can probably look at the CVB, can probably give us some hotel information from their partners as far as the length of the reservation and the stay. But what we were told is that they tried to do festivals to keep the people in town, and it just didn't work. They wanted to get home and get on the roadway.
We were worried they'd throw up a tent and stay for a while. So, okay, thanks.
And my question kind of pertains, I have two questions, and it pertains to that. Carbondale is Carbondale, and what time of the year was it?
It was in August.
Okay, but this is Fredericksburg, and April is already a zoo for us. So, I mean, are they taking into account that there'll be, you know, like a lot of the older folks come in to see the flowers and all of that stuff?
Right, absolutely. I mean, we can only do, I mean, we're lucky enough to have cities like Carbondale that were willing to talk to us. So if we didn't, we would be guessing on nothing. So all I can do is give you the information that's presented on those towns. But yes, it's wildflower season, April, festival season here in Fredericksburg. We know how busy it is, and that's why we took the stance as the task force to not promote Fredericksburg as a place to view the eclipse. We know people are already going to be here.
Okay. And my second question is we have so many workers that are from out of Fredericksburg, Bernie, they come from Bernie, they come from San Antonio. How bad do you think traffic will be, and will they have a problem coming to work? And if there is, has the city thought of maybe opening up the gym for, you know, people to just stay the night there, for like, you know, put up cots for people that do have to work and can't be here because of the traffic jam that will be occurring?
So we have not thought of that idea. We will write that down. However, one of our business letter points in there is to talk to your employees. You may, as a business owner, want to have a skeleton crew that day, depending on what the nature of your business is. You may want to talk to your employees, find out which ones live the closest and which ones live far away. They may need to have that day off. So that's going to be a business owner decision as far as that. There is no way for us to be able to anticipate what the traffic would be like the morning of. I can tell you I plan to be at work by 4 a.m. that day, and I'm hoping that I can make it in. So it's just going to be a best guess at this point.
Yeah, because I was also thinking even just the hospitals and the emergency personnel that don't live here and will have to drive up in to get here.
No, that's a great idea. Thank you. We'll write it down to discuss with the task force.
So from the healthcare perspective, one of the things that we have put in practice as a best practice, even from the snowvid of a few years ago, is preparing rooms in the hospital for our team members to stay in as patients, so to speak, but as team members, to make sure that we have a staff ready and our team members are ready to care for those that we serve. So we will bring in team members, have rooms available, and keep team members within the walls of the hospital to make sure that we have care on site.
And from an emergency services perspective, we have places for the law enforcement and fire and EMS and dispatchers to stay as well. So we will have those put up and be ready for the event.
Hi, I have a two-part food question. Jen mentioned the Stonewall Motor Lodge, which we own out in Stonewall, and we already are in a food desert out there, and so we're obviously very concerned about food for our guests. We, excuse me, intend to be full, hope to be full, but we also intend to hold a backyard barbecue for people that want to come onto our acreage and kind of watch the show, so to speak. And I know there was some discussion at a couple of meetings earlier this year about possibly having some satellite food stations. I don't know if that conversation's going on with HEB, so that was one question. But also the rules of engagement for those of us business owners that may want, or property owners really, that may want to cook for people on site. You know, we don't want to send 70 guests into the one HEB that's 20 minutes away. That's not really the best advice for us to give our guests. So we're thinking ahead of the curve, trying to figure out how we can cook for them and keep them on site so that we reduce traffic and they have a better experience with us at the hotel.
Part of our response for the Eclipse Leaders Breakfast on June 21st will be to have those conversations between business owners to say, where do we think those shared pinch points are, so we can maybe plan a mitigation strategy like a cold storage located, because we know we have members that have a cold storage capacity that we could mobilize. I am aware that HEB knows that numerous stores will be impacted by the eclipse, not only the Fredericksburg store, and that they have been working on a company-wide plan to appropriately try to source, but we do expect there'll be some pain points around that, but we'd love to have you or any other business members come to that event so we can have those collaborative conversations and say, what shared problems do we have, and then how can we step into that to look at a strategy to fix, not just for one business, but maybe to fix it on a broader scale.
And I'm happy to answer on the health department. Kelly Olfers, the director of our health department, is here, so if I say something wrong, let me know. But if you are thinking about cooking for any of your guests or for the public for this event, you do need to apply for a temporary health permit. It's a very simple process. You can do that online, in person, or mail that in. But know if you have anything that is a temperature-controlled food, such as meat, you will have to have a certified food handler permit, and you can get that online as well in order to apply for that. So Kelly and her staff at the health division, which is now located in the old USDA building off Llano, are happy to walk you through that process, or you're able to get to the health department website through the city's website under departments, or on the county website also under departments. Anything else you want me to add? Okay, I hope that helps.
When I was up here earlier, I'm sorry, I just wanted to thank y'all for having this because you answered about 20 of my questions before I even got up here. But I think I was wondering about the fuel situation. Like people coming in from, let's say, Mason. Mason is not a big town, and then you have another 45 minutes to get in here and or anywhere along the way. I was just wondering what the fuel situation looked like.
Yes, ma'am. We hope to do public, or we are going to do public education to the fuel deliverers. And then we encourage all of our local residents to fill up with fuel ahead of the time. Don't wait till Friday or Saturday to do that. So that will kind of alleviate the need. They can bring in that extra fuel, and we are working with those businesses to make sure that takes place.
I have a comment and a question. I own a small lodging property near here, and the people that are calling us for lodging are flying in from Hawaii, Washington, East Coast, Oregon, California, and they're planning to stay because they've never been here. They love to want to see the area. So yeah, they're gonna arrive and stay 4 or 5 days, and they can't wait to see Fredericksburg and everything about this area. So be prepared for that because it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be phenomenal. I lived in Salt Lake City in 2017. It was a phenomenal experience. I don't know that anybody's going to understand if you haven't seen it. I know there's people here who have seen it. But it's a phenomenal experience, and we need to make sure people really enjoy it and have a good time. And I love the fact that you guys are so organized over it. But it's going to showcase us off, and it's just going to be a really cool thing. So enjoy it. Don't be worried about it. Have fun. Smile. It's just really cool. Really, really cool. The other thing I was wondering about, however, is what about October? What are the plans? Is there anything, what do you anticipate is going to happen this October? Because it kind of feels like a trial run, and I haven't heard much.
We have not seen, and we've spoken to our CVB, all of our partners, we have not seen, and I will tell you, I attended the Kerrville meeting last week, the same exact thing. We are not seeing the requests for information on October. We are not, I'm sure it's a Saturday in October. We know that we'll be full. It's the weekend after Oktoberfest, the Texas Mesquite Arts Festival is happening that weekend, so we know it's going to be a full weekend, but we are just not seeing the drive for people requesting information at this point. So we're really focusing all the effort on the total solar eclipse.
Okay, yeah, it's going to be huge.
I promise this is my last question. I was wondering about the rental car situation too. Because even during I had a friend who needed a car during the weekday, and there were no rental cars. So I was just kind of wondering if there's any thoughts about that.
I have not heard yet. I will tell you the people that were calling in to make reservations for tent camping, they had not made their rental car reservations yet, and we told them they needed to look into that ASAP. But we will reach out. I think all that we have here is Enterprise to speak with them and see what their plans are, but it's a very small satellite office, so that's going to be up to that private business to come up with a plan for that. But yeah, that's a great issue. The other issue that we have to think about is electric vehicles. We have a small number of electric vehicle charging stations in the city, and what if all of those people, what if we have hundreds come and they need to plug in to be able to get back home? So something else to think about. We are planning to give people notifications on where they are, but again, that's up to private business to add those here in Fredericksburg prior to. So we are worried about that.
Hi, everybody. My husband and I moved here in August, and this is the first time I've lived in a smaller town. It's the smallest that I've ever lived in. And I just wanted to say that since I've been here and I've been trying to get involved and go to things and all that, it's been unbelievably impressive how much care you guys as leadership and as community members give to everything that's happening in Fredericksburg. And again, from like an outsider, I know I'll never be a local and I'll have all that drama that I have to carry while I'm here. However, I just want to convey gratitude to you guys, because where I come from, this would never happen, and it would be every man for himself. So whoever said it earlier about this is a community opportunity to be good neighbors with each other and to care for one another and to welcome guests that are coming, because I am actually one of them who moved here because of the hospitality and the goodness of people that I had experienced prior. I just want to say thank you, and really, really hats off, hands, applause, all the things, because this kind of preparation so far in advance, seeking who has done it before and what was successful, only puts us in the best position possible. So I don't know, I didn't know if there'd be tension or whatever in this meeting. I just wanted to relieve it, at least from my perspective. This is fantastic. You guys are all great, all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Was that it? Oh. May I ask one question? Could you come up to the microphone since this is being live streamed and on the radio, please? Thank you. We don't want to miss your question.
Come on, Leland.
Thank you for waiting for me to get down here. I just have a question. In looking around the audience this evening, there are a number of us that are landowners out in the community, not only in Gillespie County, but in Mason, Llano, Kerr County, and everything like that. The sheriff addressed something earlier about having the posted signs or putting up an electric fence, or you have to put the purple stakes in the ground and everything like that. Many of us, like with us, we have over 3 miles of county road that comes through the pasture. It's unfenced. We have right at 4 miles of state highway that splits our place, and it is fenced. Now, we have the signs, the posted signs, whether they be from the Farm Bureau or Texas Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association, posted at ingress and egress of the property and everything like that. However, especially during hunting season, we find people that have gone into the pasture and they say, oh, we didn't see the signs that are posted on the cattle guard. My question perhaps to the sheriff or Justin, what is the distance that these signs have to be posted to where we don't get that feedback, say, oh, we didn't see the sign? Is it every 100 yards, every mile, or?
The best rule of thumb is to put it wherever you could stand and look, like up here to the wall, up here to the back of the place, and be able to see it visibly along the roadway. If you need to, move it out right along the edge of the roadway where they will be able to see them as they traverse through your property. I know at the cattle guards most of the time, I'm always concentrating to make sure I don't hit those bat wings on the cattle guard. So that may not be the best place to put them. Maybe move them inside your property a little bit on either side of your cattle guards and I know exactly where your place is, and all the property along there.
Okay.
Along the roadway, though, your fence, the fence is a form of notice for no trespassing. That is your key thing. The fence is a notice of no trespassing.
Okay. What authority, and I know that, I'm not a very big person. I can talk quite a bit and everything, and I don't represent much authority or anything like that. But at our place out near Enchanted Rock, nearly on a daily basis, today I was out there most of the day, and a car had pulled beside the road, and they had their chairs out, and they were taking pictures of Enchanted Rock. And they weren't right beside the road. They were probably about here to that wall, just out on the flat there and everything. And I asked them to move, and reluctantly they did go ahead and move. But I can only imagine with the congestion that everybody is expecting out here next year, I don't know if I have enough friends that can come and help me to get them to move. Sheriff, how would we address something like that? Just ignore it and go away, or get a gun out, or what?
No, sir, please. No. Let me do the part about the guns. No, please don't do that. If you respectfully visit with them and try to get them to move, if you don't want them there, if you do not want them on your property, please ask them respectfully, can you go on and move on? Just because my yard's a little bit bigger than yours, that doesn't mean that you can come squat in my yard. So ask them respectfully. Most of the people are going to be very cordial. A lot of them coming from out of state are not going to understand the rules of Texas, that 98% of the state is privately owned. A lot of these states that they come from, you have free gratis all over the place. You can hunt all over the place. There's all kind of other rules. So respectfully ask them to leave. If they don't, by all means call us. We will try to get an officer there. We're going to have them strategically placed throughout the county to try to respond to these calls. Now, we want to make sure that you realize that we're here as a service to try to protect everybody and to take care of the places where they won't leave, where you we don't want any disturbances, we don't want any fistfights. I'm hoping that everybody will act cordially. I think one lady said that it's the best place around here. A lot of people are going to come to enjoy themselves. They're not necessarily going to be here to obstruct your property intentionally. But I hate to tell you, you're probably going to have some of them on there, just like the Willow City Loop has been in the past. We'll do what we can, but I told you the number of roadways that we have here. There's a lot of miles for us to cover.
Okay, good. Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
If I have any trouble, I'll just go ahead and call Butch Welgehaw, and he can help me.
Is he here this evening? Oh, there he is. Yeah, he's got a gator. He'll block the road for you, I'm sure.
If we don't have any more questions, I do want to mention one other thing. We have actually partnered with our local radio station, Texas Rebel Radio, KNAF, and the Deuce. They are actually going to be officially sponsoring the Eclipse. And on the day of, the city has secured, we actually own 4 electronic message boards, and we've secured a number of others. Our plan is to put these message boards at strategic locations and tell the visitors to tune to KNAF or the Deuce. And the radio has agreed to partner with us and give critical information out on the day of the eclipse. So if there's traffic congestion or public awareness campaigns about private property. So we will be able to push that message through some public service announcements ahead of time about what is allowed and not allowed on our Texas land, and give people, our visitors, that resource so they don't accidentally end up parked on your property. Does anyone else have any other questions?
And with that, I'd like to say that the Gillespie County Sheriff's Office has a Facebook page, along with the other law enforcement agencies are within the county. And we'll be very diligent in posting information on that as best that we can in a timely fashion for anybody that views it. Now, if the service is bad, you may not even be able to see anything on your phones, but we'll just see.
Buddy, put that in your budget. Radios.
Oh, the AM/FM radios. Yeah, it'll be broadcast on that, I'm sure.
That's
okay.
Great. We want to thank all of you for coming tonight. It's such a great crowd to see here. We want to thank Fbg.Live. We want to thank Texas Rebel Radio, the Deuce, and KNAF for streaming this. If you're bored later, you can always go and play it back. We will include a link on that website. And if you have any additional questions, you can always email us at eclipse@fbgtx.org. Thank you. Get home safely.